עסקו לשנים רבות, ריקו. עסקו לשנים רבות, נעימות וטובות. אשריכם ישראל, אשרי העם שככה לו, אשרי העם שאדוני אלוהיו. How wonderful it is to see that just a few days before Yom Kippurim, which are very busy days, preparing for the Seudot and for the upcoming holiday of Sukkot, that Baruch Hashem, our nation still has Nashim Tzedkaniyot, righteous women, holy women, that are able to steal from their precious moments in order to come to the shi'ud. To be honest, today I didn't expect to see too many seats occupied, but to my pleasant surprise, Baruch Hashem, I should know better already. Baruch Hashem, this group, it takes a lot more than this for them not to show up to a class. Ashrechem, and this should be a big zechut for all of you. As I said, I'm very confident that this group, Be'ezrat Hashem, is destined for wonderful things this coming year, for a year of health and wealth and prosperity and peace of mind and productivity and all good things for your children and all of your families. Amen. Amen. Thank you. Thank you. The way we celebrate Yom Kippur today is much different than the way it was celebrated or commemorated 2,000 years ago or 3,000 years ago. It's a different Yom Kippur. Although the fasting is the same, that didn't change. The no leather shoes didn't change. That's been around since the time of the Bible. The no bathing and washing is the same. But one big difference is that in the olden days, the main service of Yom Kippur was done in a Bet HaMikdash, and the one that officiated this service was a Kohen Gadol. That part of Kippur, the temple service, the Kohen Gadol, and all the things that he did on that day, unfortunately, that is no longer with us. Today, the only place where we find the Seder HaAvodah, the order of the service of the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, we only find it in the Mahzor. It's written, but we cannot actually fulfill it. And really, the main atonement, the main kapara was because the Kohen Gadol would work very hard, very diligently on Yom Kippur, from early in the morning until the fast was over. He would bring all sorts of sacrifices, and he would sprinkle blood on the Mizbeach, and he would go to the mikveh, and he wore special garments, and he was constantly washing his hands and his feet, and he was doing all sorts of kavanot and all sorts of prayers. They would actually take a goat and throw it off a mountain, which was another ceremony, which we don't have anymore today. And it's unfortunate. The way they did Kippur in the olden days, the Bet HaMikdash was central. The Bet HaMikdash was key. And the Kohen Gadol, this is his holiday. Ba'avonotenu, because of our sins, we don't have that element anymore. We don't have this advantage of a Kohen Gadol. There's no Kohen Gadol today. We have Kohanim. Kohen Gadol we have not. Bet HaMikdash we certainly have not. But the good news is that our rabbis say, when you read the service, just reading what happened, it's as if you did it, which is a great thing. I'm sure most of you ladies at some point of the day will be in the synagogue on Yom Kippurim. I ask you to take note of the Musaf service of Yom Kippur. And in that service of Musaf, there's a page that says Seder Avodah, the order of the Avodah, of the service of the Kohen Gadol. And over there it lists exactly what he did. He got up I was going to say he got up in the morning, but the truth is it's wrong. He didn't get up in the morning. Because the Kohen Gadol did not sleep on the night of Kippur. He stayed up the whole night of Kippur. Actually, the service begins 7 days before Kippur. How he would prepare himself, and they would teach him all the halachot, and then the day of Kippur would come, and he would get up, would be early in the morning, he would start slaughtering the sacrifices, catching the blood, and we go through the whole Seder Avodah, and the rabbis tell us that if you read it, it's like you did it. So to me that might be the most important part of Yom Kippur, reading that section. It turns out that on Yom Kippur we all become Kohanim Gedolim. In the olden days we just needed one. But today when you read it, it's considered as if you're the Kohen Gadol or the Kohenet Gedolah, and that you're going into the holy areas and doing the Avodah. In English we call it lip service. You ever hear of that, lip service? That means when you're speaking, it's like you did it. It's a big gift that God gives us. That virtually you're able to fulfill the Seder Avodah. Even if you don't go to the synagogue, and you're home watching your children, which is not a bad idea, come to think of it, and you have your mahzor, you could read it, the Seder Avodah. They have it in English. Somebody recently brought me a book which I think is very, very beautiful. It's the Seder Avodah with pictures. Now you can see when you're reading it, the Kohen Gadol standing on his bayah, doing, it makes it a little more interesting, a little more understandable. Seder Avodah Yom Kippurim bebet HaMikdash. We'll use it on Kippur, Bezat Hashem. Today, I came to explain to you one of the most important events of the day. And that is the ceremony that is called the Ketoret. Many of you maybe never heard of the Ketoret. So I need to give you some introduction. What is Ketoret? In English, the way they explain Ketoret is the incense. You know what incense is? Incense is when you take spices and you put them together, and then you put them on a coal, and then the smoke comes up. Maybe sometimes you saw it in a hotel or in a spa. They have like coals at the smoke, so it gives it a good smell. Or in the city, you see them selling sometimes the sticks. Maybe it's Avodah Zarah, I don't know what those are really. But as an example, as a bad example. And they light it and you see the smoke come up. So in the Beit HaMikdash, every single day, 365 days a year, they brought incense. Not once a day, twice a day. In the morning and in the afternoon. On Shabbat also. That's 365 days. That's Shabbat also. How do they do it on Shabbat? How do they do anything in the Beit HaMikdash on Shabbat? They slaughtered on Shabbat, they brought Qurbanot on Shabbat. The Torah allows it. Just like we're allowed to circumcise on Shabbat. And the Beit HaMikdash, we're allowed to do these things. It's a mitzvah to do these things. What would they do? In the Beit HaMikdash, they had a certain area. It was called the Kodesh. It's the holy. In that area, basically, there were three pieces of furniture. You had a menorah against the wall. On the other wall, you had a table, shulchan, with bread. And right in the middle, you had a mizbeach, an altar, as a small one. It's called the Mizbeach HaKetoret. The Mizbeach of the incense was made out of gold. And what did they do on that Mizbeach? They brought the Ketoret. The Hadush, that's why it's called Mizbeach Ketoret. They would take 11 spices. The Gemara lists us the names. You cannot find these spices in the cookbook or in some sort of a newsletter. The 11 spices are written in the Gemara, and it tells us how much of this one and how much of that one, like a recipe. And there was only one family in the Jewish nation that knew how to make it. It was called Bet Abtinas, the Abtinas family, because there was a secret ingredient. And they knew the secret, the Havdir, like Coca-Cola, the Havdir. Again, a bad example. But there's a secret ingredient. They had the secret ingredient, so that family was in charge of making the Ketoret. And they would put the spices together, and then they would crush it in a certain way. And then every day they would take a little portion of it, half in the morning and half in the afternoon. Why? Why did they bring the Ketoret? I'm going to tell you the opinion of Maimonides, Harambam. Harambam wrote a book called Moreh Nevuchim, Guide to the Perplexed. Nobody over here looks too perplexed. But the Rambam, at the end of the book, tells us the reasons for many of the mitzvot. It's a beautiful section over there. So he says, Hadush. He says, in that section of the Beit HaMikdash, there's a lot of sacrifices. So there's a lot of blood and there's a lot of meat. And it smells. And it's not nice for the house of God to have a bad odor. So by bringing the incense, it's like deodorizing the Beit HaMikdash. So to give it a good smell, a very practical reason. Nothing Kabbalistic, nothing, very simple, just like in your house. You take a deodorizer and you spray the house, and you put lemon on the floor, and to make the house have a good smell. So the Beit HaMikdash, Hashem's house, we don't want to walk into the holy and it smells like a butcher shop. It's not kavod, it's the palace of God. So every morning, they would go put these spices and a delicious fragrance would come out, and everybody who was in the area, it says, you could smell the smell of the Ketoret from the temple all the way to Jericho. Yericho. Yericho is far away. For miles away. The people in Yericho, they smelled the smoke of the Ketoret because there was like a roof. It would go out, and it would go outside and waft in the whole area. That's why they call it Yericho. Yericho is from the word Reyach. From the smell. They smelled the Ketoret. Anyway, that's Harambam's reason. A lot of the rabbis don't like that reason. Because they say, it's a simple reason. You're turning this holy ceremony into spraying Lysol. That's what it became, the Ketoret. 11 spices, and the Kohen, and all this drama. And at the end of the day, it's like spraying a scented fragrance. It has to be deeper than that. Hachamim tell us that when Moshe Rabbeinu went up to heaven on one of his trips, all the angels came to him and they gave him gifts. Matanot. One of the angels is the angel of death, the Satan. And the Satan came to Moshe Rabbeinu and said, I don't know why he did it, he was in a good mood. I'm going to give you a secret. I'm not scared of anything. The angel of death says, I'm scared of nobody and nothing. But one thing I'm scared of, the Ketoret. You bring this Ketoret, it's like kryptonite. I cannot do anything. I become paralyzed. I become immobile. So Moshe Rabbeinu remembered that. He said, it's good to know. Write it down. The Ketoret. And that's the Satan saying it himself. Sure enough, later on the Torah tells us there was a big plague. There was many people dying. Moshe Rabbeinu tells his brother, go get the Ketoret. What do you mean Ketoret? So what? Get the Ketoret. They brought the Ketoret, and all of a sudden the plague stopped. So it worked. In the old countries, even some communities today, God forbid, when something bad is happening in a community where there's an epidemic or a plague or Chas v'shalom, people are getting sick, the rabbis would call 10 people to the synagogue in Minyan, and they read the Ketoret. Because it works. In other communities, they would send people to the four corners of the city, and they would read the Ketoret to keep the Satan outside the city. So every day in the Beit HaMikdash, they used to bring this special mixture, combination of spices, and somehow it would push away the Satan. Why 11 spices? I'm going to tell you something we said over on Shabbat. The number 11 is an important number in Judaism. Why? Because the number 10 is important. 10 is a holy number. If you think in your mind, you'll see so many things in our religion are connected to the number 10. 10 Commandments. Very good. The 10 tests of Abraham. The 10 in Minyan. Excellent. So you know everything. The number 10, you'll always see the men or the women, they give 10% to charity. God created the world with 10 different statements, 10 utterances. There were 10 plagues in Egypt. You'll always find the number 10 as a holy number in good things, in beracha. Now, listen to the rule. The plagues were good for the Jews. Sure, if you're an Egyptian, you're not too happy. But if you're a Jew, the plagues are very good. It's killing the Egyptians. Now, listen to what I'm going to teach you today. Whenever you have something that's holy, next to the Kedusha, you're always going to have Tum'ah. You see, the unholy energies, they feed off the Kedusha. They live off the Kedusha. They cannot come too close, but they come next to it. So listen to a rule of life. Wherever you're going to see something very holy, very close to it, you're going to see Tum'ah. Because it's like when you have honey, which is delicious, right away, what do you see when there's honey? The bugs come. The bees, they come to eat it. The same thing, we cannot see it with our eyes, but in the spiritual world, whenever there's something holy, forces of evil come and they try to connect to it. Take the city of Jerusalem. There's not a holier city than Yerushalayim Ira Kodesh. And what is Yerushalayim surrounded by? Mosques and churches. Because with this Kedusha, the Tum'ah right away has to come close to it. Saviv l'sha'im yitallachun. The Sha'im always go Saviv. They always go around. The holiest day of the week is Shabbat. What did the Goyim do? The Arabs took Friday, and the Christians took Sunday. Shabbat is surrounded again. Saviv l'sha'im yitallachun. The Tum'ah, it cannot touch Shabbat. Shabbat's too holy. But they come around it in order to benefit or draw a little from the power. It's like scavengers that they come in, they feed off the animal. If that's true, I told you the holy number in Judaism is 10. So then what's the numbers that are representing the negative forces? 9 and 11. Incidentally, something happened on that day. 9/11. Okay, very good. Okay, you don't have to, you said it, I didn't say it. But don't joke, those numbers are, when the rabbis heard 9/11, they said, of course, they know 9 is close and 11 is close. 10 is the Kedusha, the 9 and 11 is the powers of evil. That's why, incidentally, the worst day on the Jewish calendar is Tisha B'Av. Tisha B'Av is in the 11th month, the 9th day. So in English, September 11th was 9/11, but we have a 9/11 every year, just reverse, it's 11/9. That's Tisha B'Av. Those numbers are representing the numbers of judgment, the numbers of the negative forces. So what do? We read the Ketoret, or we bring the Ketoret with 11 spices. The 11 spices has the ability to break the 11 forces of judgment. We need to break that 11. So by bringing these 11 spices, it's very, very advantageous somehow with all the concentration that the Kohen has when he brings it. So somehow all those powers of Tum'ah of the number 11 go away. And what it has the ability to do is, it turns the 11 forces of power, of judgment, into mercy. Which is a great thing. Imagine you could turn your enemy into your friend. This is a great thing. That's what the Ketoret does. As long as we're in this world, we're always fighting those forces. So we have to constantly read the Ketoret to push it away. I don't want to confuse you too much today. But I always tell you that God has many names, and each one of His names represents a different concept. Some of the names of God are mercy names, Chesed, Rahmanut, and other names of God are judgment, are strict names. One name of God of judgment is the name Aleph Daled Nun Yud. Adonai, Sefadai Teftach Ofi Agit Tadatecha. That name, I don't know if we have it here somewhere, I'm sure we have it on the wall somewhere up here. You'll see the letters Aleph, Daled, Nun and Yud. When you see that name, that's the name of judgment, because if you switch the letters around, it spells Dinah, Din. The letters Din are in that name. And there are 11 forces of judgment. That means that name of God, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, which is the judgments, there's 11 of those forces in the world. The numerical value of that holy name of God is 65. That's what it is. 65 times 11, I did it already, is 715. If you write on your papers the word Ketoret, Kof, Tet, Vav, Resh, Taf, it equals 715 exactly. The Ketoret has the ability to neutralize the 11 judgments that are represented in that name of God, Aleph, Daled, Nun, Yud, and it breaks them. That's why the Gemara says, En lecha chaviv kemo ha-Ketoret. There's nothing more special and precious and endearing like the Ketoret. All this is good all year long. But on Kippur, it's a special day of the Ketoret. Why? Every day the Ketoret was brought in the area called the Kodesh. But if you keep on walking past the Kodesh, a little further, deeper into the temple, there's another chamber that's called Kodesh Kodashim. That's the Holy of Holies. There's only one person that's allowed to go into that chamber, and that's the Kohen Gadol. Nobody else. And he's only allowed to go one day a year into that room, on Yom Kippur. And he only goes into that room for a few minutes. But the main kapara, the main atonement for the Jewish people takes place when the Kohen Gadol goes into that inner sanctum in the Kodesh Kodashim on that holy day Yom Kippur, and everybody stands outside praying that he should go in peace and come out in peace, because it's a very holy place. The Gemara tells us that when the Kohen Gadol would go into the Kodesh Kodashim, they would tie a rope to his leg. Because a lot of times it was so holy that if the Kohen Gadol would be thinking things that are not proper, or maybe he wasn't a tzaddik, Chas v'shalom, they would die. And they have to pull him out. Because you can't go in to get him. Hatzalah cannot go into the Kodesh Kodashim. Because then Hatzalah is going to be Hatzalah. Because the Kodesh Kodashim is a very highly active area of Kedusha. So the Kohen Gadol has to go in with great preparation. What did he do in the Kodesh Kodashim in those few minutes that he was there? So it says he would bring a special Ketoret. He would go in, and I may have the picture here, he would go in one hand with a pan filled with the spices. In the other hand, he would go in with a pan filled with coals, burning coals. And he walks into the Holy of Holies with his hands like this. And now he's alone, just with God, in the Holy of Holies, you had two things. You had the Aron. The Aron is where you had the tablets. The Luchot. Shnei Luchot Abrit. That's in the Aron. Very holy. And above the Aron you had Kiruvim. They were gold figurines of a man and a lady, a boy and a girl, looking at each other. And the Kohen would go in with the two shovels of the Ketoret and the coals, and somehow, this was very difficult, he would turn the shovel in a certain way where the spices would go in his hand, and then he would take the spices and put them on the coals, and all of a sudden, boom, the whole chamber would fill with smoke. There's no smoke alarm in the Kodesh Kodashim. That's what the service is. You want to fill the whole room with smoke. And somehow that smoke pushes the Satan all the way far away from the Jewish people, and that gives Am Yisrael kapara. If you write on your paper, Hasatan, that's the Satan. Hasatan is here, Sin, Tet, Nun. The numerical value of Hasatan is 364. How many days are there in the year? Very good. That means the Satan is only able to attack the Jewish people 364 days a year. But there's one day a year that he cannot touch us. That's the day when we go into the Kodesh Kodashim and we bring the special brand of the Ketoret, and the smoke fills up the Kodesh Kodashim, and the Satan has to run for his life. Now I want to tell you about a group of people that, I don't know if we spoke about ever. They are called the Tzedukim. Have you ever heard of the Tzedukim? Okay, some of you did, some of you didn't. I'm going to explain them to you. These are bad people. The Tzedukim, they believe in the Bible. They believe in the Torah. Whatever it says in the Torah, they follow. But they don't believe in the interpretations of the Hachamim. We call that the Talmud, the Gemara, the Mishnah. You see, when God gave the Torah to Moshe, He gave us two Torahs. One is called Torah Shebichtav, and one is called Torah Sheba'al Peh. He gave us the book, that's the law, the Torah that we read every Shabbat, and then He gave us another interpretation which explains the book. You cannot explain this on your own because it's a closed book. A lot of the words in the Torah are hard to understand. So He gave us a Pirush, He gave us a commentary. We call that Gemara, Mishnah, Talmud, whatever you like to use that word. They don't believe in that stuff. They say we interpret it ourselves. We don't need the rabbis to tell us interpretations, Gemara, Talmud. We follow whatever it says in the Torah, literally. This is not good. I'll give you an example of Tzeduki behavior. It says in the Pasuk, the men have to wear tefillin every day. It says, V'hayu letotafot ben einecha. And you should wear the tefillin between your eyes. So the Gemara says, well, when it says between your eyes, it doesn't mean you put the tefillin shorosh over here. It means on your head, but in the center of your head, that it's between your eyes. Not over here, not over here, in the center. And like if you ever went to shul or you see your husbands or your children putting on tefillin, they put it on their head. Go to a Tzedukim minyan, they all wear the tefillin over here. But they say, but the rabbis, we go with the book. What does it say in the book? I'll give you another example of Tzeduki behavior. The Torah says, Lo teba'aru esh bechol moshpotechem b'yom HaShabbat. You're not allowed to have a fire in your house on Shabbat. That's the way they say it. We explain it. You cannot light a fire on Shabbat, but you can have fire in your house on Shabbat. You turn the ovens on before Shabbat. We turn the lights on before Shabbat. We turn the heat on before Shabbat. But the Tzedukim say no. The Torah is saying you're not allowed to have any fire in your house. So what do before Shabbat? They shut all the lights. They shut the ovens. They shut the heat. So if you're ever invited for a Shabbat to a Tzedukim, bring your coat with you. And bring food, because they sit in the, what is the Shabbat is the Shabbat. They sit in the dark, they eat cold food. And there's hundreds of things like this. We say this, they say something else. It's a different religion. It's a different religion, the Tzedukim. There's not too many of them today. In Egypt, you had a lot of them. They call them the Karaim. Karaim, oh, that's the brother, that's the first cousin of the Tzedukim. Halab, we had no Karaim and we had no Tzedukim, Baruch Hashem. But there are not too many of them around today. But in the olden days, they were very, very powerful, very strong. As a matter of fact, they were so powerful. In the times of the second Beit HaMikdash, most of the Kohanim Gedolim were Tzedukim. Why? In the second Beit HaMikdash, the Romans were in charge. So they would go to the Romans, they would bribe the Romans, and the Romans would put them in. They would tell the rabbis, we want this guy to be the Kohen Gadol. You're going to fight with the Roman? The Romans will kill you. Chas v'shalom. The good news is, every year in Yom Kippur, when the Tzedukim went into the Kodesh Kodashim, they pulled them out in the rope. Every year they died. Ken yovdu kol oivech Hashem. Good for them. It says in the Gemara, I think, 350 Kohanim Gedolim Tzedukim died in the Kodesh Kodashim. No, absolutely not. Nothing. It's a shame for us. It's a shame for us. So listen to what they said. Again, this is a misinterpretation. They say, rabbis, you're wrong. You say you bring in the Ketoret and you bring in the coals, and in the Kodesh Kodashim you start preparing it. No. We say you prepare it outside. That means when he's still outside, he takes the Ketoret, he puts it on the coals, and it's smoking already, and he brings it in when it's already smoking. Now, according to us, if you do it that way, you did nothing. They say, no, you have to do everything outside and bring it in already prepared. What's their reason? They give you a good reason. You're going to like the reason. The reason they say is, it's not nice. If you're serving a king, the king is sitting at the banquet. The king calls the waiter. The king says, I'd like to have scrambled eggs. You don't bring the pan with the fire to the king and make the eggs in front of him. You make the eggs somewhere else, and you bring him the finished product. You're going to go into the Kodesh Kodashim and start making the potion. You start pouring the smoke and the Ketoret. Bring it in, done. It's not proper to prepare in front of the king. That's a good claim. This is what they said. I'll tell you a story the Gemara says. Gemara says one time at Tzedukim, he went into the Beit HaMikdash and he did it his way. He put the spices on the coals outside, the wrong way, and he brought it in, and then a few days later they found him dead on the floor and there was worms coming out of his nose. Don't get so scared. I'm going to explain to you this Gemara now. Last week we talked about Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, God is a king. Remember last class we had? We talked Melech, 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 Melech. The shofar, the king is coming, we blow the bugle. The whole day of Rosh Hashanah, God comes as a king. Because it's Melech al Kol Haaretz. God is the king of the whole entire world. Rosh Hashanah is not only a Jewish day. Rosh Hashanah is for the Goyim also. Of course, all the Goyim are judged on Rosh Hashanah. They don't realize that they're judged. The guy on Coney Island Avenue that's driving his truck on Rosh Hashanah and he's emptying the milk off the truck, he doesn't realize that he's being judged. If he would realize, he'd go back home and read Tehillim all day long. Everybody is judged on Rosh Hashanah. God is the king. Melech al kol ha'aretz. Rosh Hashanah is a universal day. Yom Kippur, that's a Jewish day. Yom Kippur is not for the Goyim. The day of forgiveness, the day of atonement, the day of kaparat avonot, the day of purity, God says that's the holiday that I have for the Jewish people. This is our gift. This has nothing to do with the Goyim. The Goyim don't get kapara on the 10th day of Tishri. But the Jewish people, God says, I'm giving you a special day where I clean you up. The holy books write, on Yom Kippur, God is not a king anymore. You know what God is on the day of Kippur? Hatan. You know what Hatan is? A groom. And who's the bride? The Jewish people are the bride. On that day, God comes to us like a Hatan and He calls the bride. Rosh Hashanah is a strict day. Melech. Wow, Melech, we're all scared. Kippur, it's like a wedding. It's Hatan B'Kala. I'm going to tell you a custom that they had in the olden days. On Yom Kippur, it says, I don't know when they did this, maybe during the break, I don't know when they had time on Yom Kippur to do this, but it says, the Jewish girls would go out into the fields. They would wear special white dresses, and the boys would go on the other side of the Mechitza, and the girls and the boys would meet, and they would make marriages. This was a big day for marriages. Not for marriages, but for setting the boys and girls up. Today, if you walk in front of some of the shuls on Yom Kippur, you see something like that happening. But it's nothing like that. It's nothing like that. In the olden days, they did it with mechitzot, with the proper way. It wasn't a party. It says, the pretty girls, they would stand and they'd say, boys, Bachur, Sana enecha layofi. Look at the beauty. She'en isha ela layofi. But a woman is for beauty. Don't you want to have a pretty wife? And then there were certain girls that had beautiful families they came from. They had good lineage. They would say, Bachur, Sana enecha la mishpacha. Look at the families. She'en isha ela labanim. What are you getting married for? To have children? Don't you want your children to have a good family? And then it says, there were some girls over there that were, what should I say? They were ugly. I don't know how can I say it. I don't know how to say it. So what are they going to say? They would say, Bachur, young boy, marry us l'shem shamayim. Oh boy. What can they say? Marry us. And I'm sure there was some tzaddikim over there that they married them l'shem shamayim also. That was a day where everybody would connect. Everybody would get to know each other. And I said to myself once, that's the day you're making Tzedukim? Of course. Because since that's the day that God comes down like a Hatan, and the Jewish people are like a Kala, so there's no better day. We want to act like God. Your Hatan and Kala, we're going to also do the same thing on that day. It's a very big day also for getting married, for those people that have children, or people that want to get married themselves. Yom Kippur, to pray for this is maybe the best day of the year, to pray for this concept, because this is the day of Hatan v'Kala. Now watch. Let me see if you understand this now. You remember I told you we have two Torahs. We have Torah shebichtav and Torah sheba'al peh. The written law and then the interpretation. Let's say like this. These two books are like a bride and a groom. One is the Hatan and one is the Kala. Which book do you think is the Hatan and which book do you think is the Kala? I'll tell you. The Torah is the Hatan. And the interpretation is the Kala. Why? I explained to you. Because if you look in a marriage, what is the Torah? The Torah is just words, but it's no interpretation. It's raw. It's potential. It's undeveloped. Who develops the Torah for us? The Hachamim. In a marriage, the husband brings home to his wife money. Money is undeveloped. You can't eat money. You can't wear money. You can't sit on money. The lady takes the money and she builds a house with it. She turns the money into food. She turns the money into clothes for her children. She turns the money into furniture for the house. Even though maybe he can't sit on the furniture, but she turns it into furniture nonetheless. But the point is, the lady is the commentary of the house. She builds the house. The man comes home with money. The money is like a pasuk. It's unfinished. The lady takes from the materials that the husband gives her, and she has a good imagination, and she has good ingenuity, and she's able to build a beautiful Jewish home. So they say, Torah shebichtav is the hatan, Torah she'ba'al peh is the kala. Now you understand what I'm going to tell you. When the Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh Kodashim on Yom Kippur, you know what the Kodesh Kodashim is? God is the Hatan, the Kohen Gadol is the Kala. He represents us. You know what the Kodesh Kodashim is? That's the room of Yehud. You know, at a wedding, after the wedding is finished, the ceremony, they whisk the Hatan, the Kala right away, they bring him to a room, private room. Yehud room. They close the door. Nobody's in the room except Hatan, the Kala. The photographer doesn't go in that room. The caterer doesn't go in that room. The parents don't go in that room. They're alone in that room. That's the room of Yehud. A special moment of Hatan Dekala. It's the first time that they're now married, man and wife, Hatan Dekala. They're secluded, alone in the room. It's a very, very precious, private moment. God says on the day of Kippur, this is their wedding day. I come down as a Hatan. I love the Jewish people on Kippur. I want to forgive you. Come into the Yehud room. But not everybody could fit in the Yehud room. Or every 600,000 people cannot fit in the Kodesh Kodashim. So God says, choose one representative, Shaliach, and he'll come into the Yehud room. And the Kohen goes into that room alone with Borei Olam. Now it's not a queen visiting the king. It's a bride visiting her husband, the groom. I ask you. Let's say the king and the queen are sitting at a banquet. They order something to eat. I agree. It's not proper to make the food in front of them. But guess what? This is something you never saw. After the dinner's over, the king and the queen go back to the palace, to their quarters, to where they live. The king takes off his crown. The queen takes off her crown. They take off their robes. In their private bedroom, they're not king and queen anymore. Now they're husband and wife. Every king and queen, they're husband and wife. You think they have protocol? There's no protocol. Does the queen say, Your Majesty, we're husband and wife now. Your Majesty is in public. But there's no Your Majesty, Your Royal Highness, and all that stuff. Now they're husband and wife, the way husband and wife treat each other. Imagine now the king in his private chamber, he tells his wife, I'm still hungry. Could you make me something? Of course. They're both in the kitchen. She takes the pan in front of her. She goes on the stove and she makes him something. What, when you make something for your husband, you tell your husbands, go out, don't look. No. On the contrary, that's the Shalom Bayit. When the husband sees the wife making the food for him, look at what a beautiful wife. Eshet Hayim Liimsa. You're right, it's not proper to make food in front of a king. But for a wife to make food in front of a husband, that's the biggest honor. The Tzedukim, that's their mistake. They don't look at the relationship between us and God like husband and wife. They look at it king. King, you're right, make the Ketoret outside. You cannot make the Ketoret inside. But we say, you're wrong. On Kippur, it's a husband and wife. That's the honor to prepare the Ketoret in front of the wife. There's no formality. There's nothing wrong with it. You see, because the Tzedukim don't believe in the oral tradition. They don't believe in the Kala. The oral tradition is the bride. They don't believe in the bride. And therefore they can't believe that there's such a concept of a bride and a groom with God. But we say no, just like there's Torah Sheba'al Peh, there's Torah Shebichtav, Hatan v'Kala, God is also Hatan, we're Kala. Kippur, you can make the Ketoret in front of the bride, or the bride can make it in front of the groom, there's nothing wrong. On the contrary, God loves it. Now watch. I'm going to tell you something else now. Why is the Ketoret the main Qurban of the day? Yes, it pushes away the Satan. Why does it push away the Satan? What is so special? You're right, 11. I gave you the Hadush with the 11. But what's the secret of the Ketoret? Adam HaRishon, he ate from the tree. Hava gave him to eat, they both ate. We have 5 senses. When they did that first Avon, the first Avon was done with 4 of the 5 senses. She saw the tree with her eyes. She heard the snake talk to her. That's the ears. She touched it. And she tasted it. The only sense that was not involved in the first Avon was smell. The smell never got affected. The smell, the reyach, remained pure. Every time we do something with our hands, the Satan says, the hands, the tameh, that's the hands of Adam HaRishon that ate from the tree. Every time we talk the Divrei Torah, the Satan says, the mouth that ate from the tree. Every time we hear something good, the Satan says, no, that's not good. The ears are tameh. It listened to the snake. No matter what we do, the Satan always says, you're wrong. But there's one place that Satan can't say anything. When it comes to the smell. The smell never was poisoned from the sin. And therefore on Yom Kippur, what do? We come to serve God with the purest spot, with the reyach. And the Satan smells the reyach, and he can't say, oh, they smelled the apple, or they smelled the... No, we didn't smell anything. Doesn't say we smelled anything. Therefore, the koach of the reyach, the power of the reyach, is able to push away the kohot of the Satan. Now I understand. When that Tzedukim, he brought the Ketoret wrong, he brought it outside. And then they found him dead on the floor. And what happened? There was worms coming from his nose. The Gemara is saying, because this Tzedukim over here did not bring the Ketoret, which is coming from the spot of the body that remained tahor, the reyach. Therefore God punishes him that from his nose, the place which is supposed to be the purest place, but he spoiled it as well. And therefore that place becomes punished by the Borei Olam. Oh, what a thing this is, the Ketoret. One last point and I'll let you go. After Kippur is finished, here we go. We also take this opportunity to thank Rico for all his hard work that he does over the course of the year. He's definitely underpaid and overworked, that's for sure. I'll be the first one to admit that. Okay. Somebody asked me recently, they said, Rabbi, we have Rosh Hashanah, Aseret Yemei Teshuvah, and then we have Kippur. Isn't it enough holidays for 1 month? Do you need Sukkot now also? Put Sukkot in somewhere else, in February, somewhere. After winter vacation, what do you need? Sukkot. It never ends the holidays. You know what the answer is? Kippur is the wedding. What do you have after a wedding? Sheva Berachot. Well, you cannot have a wedding and then just you go away on honeymoon? No. You need Sheva Berachot. Sukkot is the Sheva Berachot. Sukkot is the 7 days of Sheva Berachot. And there's a law in the Sheva Berachot. It says every night everybody comes together, the families, the consuegro, the hatan, the kala. They have wine, they make speeches. A beautiful Sheva Berachot. There's nothing more beautiful than Sheva Berachot. And then they want to make a beracha. They say, wait, you need a new face. You need somebody that was not at the wedding to be there so you can make them. You always need somebody new, because when there's somebody new there, there's a new simcha. It's the first time he's seeing the new couple. So we make a beracha. So we need new faces. That's we call the ushpizin. Every night of Sukkot, another tzaddik comes to the sukkah. The first night, Abraham comes to the sukkah. So, we have a new face. Oh, we can make the Sheva Berachot. And the next night, who's coming? Yitzhak Avinu. These are Panim Hadashot. The whole Sukkot, what do you know this week of the Sheva Berachot? You're spending a week with HaKadosh Baruch Hu during the time of Sukkot. Borei Olam says, come out to my sukkah. The sukkah is God's house. You leave your house. God says, I invite you. The Hatan says, come, I have a special house for you. It's a special place. It's in the outside. But Borei Olam, we're scared. You don't have to be scared. This is my house. There's Kedusha in this house. The Sukkah is God's house. It's the house of the Hatan. It's Borei Olam's house, the Sukkah. And we spend a week with Borei Olam in Sheva Berachot. And then the most amazing thing is, which never happens. Imagine, after Sheva Berachot, the Hatan gets up on the last night of the Sheva Berachot. He says, what a week we had. It's amazing. The excitement from the engagement, to the wedding, to the 7 days of parties, to sit with all my family and friends. What a beautiful bride I have. I'm the luckiest man on earth. I have to make an announcement. I want to make another day of Sheva Berachot. We cannot make another day of Sheva Berachot. There's only 7 days. I want to make 8 days. You cannot make 8 days. But I love my bride so much, I have to make an extra day. I don't know if the rabbis are going to let him or not. But nobody can tell God what to do. You know what happens after the 7 days of Sukkot? God gets up on the last day of Sukkot. He says, I don't have enough yet. I love the Jewish people so much, I want to make the 8th day of Sheva Berachot now. You're going to tell God no? You're going to tell Borei Olam, no? Halakha, 7 days. Borei Olam wrote the book. He can do whatever he wants. That's why the highest day of the year is Shemini Atzeret. Because that's the day where God shows His love for us more than any other day. Because even after the 7 are over, He says, I'm not letting you go so fast. You stay here. No, Borei Olam, we have to go back to work. We have to go. No, you stay over here. And on that day, we take out the Sefer Torah, the holiest, and we start there. When you're dancing with the Sefer Torah, that's like the Hatan and Kala having a dance. You know the first dance? The Abdil, I don't know if you're allowed to do that, but maybe you saw that in a movie once, where the Hatan and Kala come and they have the first dance. The Sefer Torah is the Hatan, and the Kala takes the Hatan, and they're dancing with the Sefer Torah. What a day Simchat Torah is. You see how it's building up? Everything is building up. It all starts from the Kodesh Kodashim, and from there, it goes all the way to these great days. So I say to you ladies, Yom Kippur is not a sad day. By no means. Yom Kippur is a happy day. Yom Kippur is the happiest day of the year. I don't mean happy like Bozo the Clown, where you go around and jumping up and doing silly things. No, it's a serious day. Of course it's a serious day. But we're very happy. I don't know about you, but when I pick up my suit from the cleaners, and I lift the plastic, and I say, oh, they got the stain out. They got the stain out. I call my wife, Sandra, they got the stain out. It's a thrill. And that's on a suit. Imagine the day that they take out all the stains from our neshama, that they bang out all the dents, and they take out all the marks and all the scuffs, and Borelam gives us the neshama after Kippur. Says, here's a new neshama, like it came from the factory. Perfect, the way it was on the day you were born. Wow, it's a thrilling day. It's a difficult day because you have to fast and you have to be in shul, but it's well worth it. As you're going through the day, we're not sad. We're happy that we're able to go through it. I'm sure the car, when it's going through the car wash, is not so comfortable when all the water's sprinkling it and all. But when the car finally comes out of the car wash, he's thrilled. Look how pretty I am. Look how beautiful I am. The Kippur is a car wash for the neshama. But you have to have a lot of pressure on it and a lot of effort. But as I said, it's well worth it. So I say to you, now you understand also why they say on the day that the Chatan and Kala get married, God forgives them for all their averot. Why should God forgive them? Because every time there's a Chatan and Kala, it's like Kippur. Because Kippur is Chatan and Kala. And just like on Kippur, we get forgiven every time there's a wedding. On that day, Chatan and Kala, God says, we make Kippur for you. God remembers Kippur on the day of the wedding. And all their sins are forgiven. So I congratulate you. Am Yisrael, you're now about to enter the big day of the wedding. B'azat Hashem on Yom Kippur. You're about to enter this closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Look how lucky we are. We're so close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He doesn't want to leave us. We're not as loyal as Him. Sometimes we leave Hashem. We say, we want to go, so God says, I don't want to leave you. On that day, that's the best day of Shalom Bayit. To strengthen the relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. May you enjoy the wedding day. May you enjoy the 7 days of Shema Berachot, because I cannot be here next Thursday. Is Sukkot already. So Sukkot, you'll enjoy the Shema Berachot as well. You'll enjoy the 8th day of the Shema Berachot as well, of Simchat Torah. And then Be'ezat Hashem, I bless you that you should all be inscribed and written in all the good books. Amen. Amen.